Welcome to the Architecting in Stilettos podcast. If you know us, you know us. And if you don't, hello. I'm Arlene Ajurian, joined by Katie Flores.
Hello.
Here at AMK Studio, an architecture and planning firm in sunny SoCal. We typically get invited by developers, entrepreneurs, nonprofits, and luxury home builders who are struggling with the big three: maximizing site value and profits, obtaining approvals, and creating the ideal solution that will best achieve their goals. When the final design is as buildable as it is green, creative, and joyful, that's the win-win we're looking for. This podcast is about how we get there. We share stories, focus on real-world, behind-the-scenes challenges, and candid discussions, all while playing well with others. California didn't just pass a housing bill. It passed over 4 dozen of them in October of 2025, and the ripple effects are just beginning. Today on Architecting in Stilettos, we're talking about the laws already changing our neighborhoods. SB 9 lot splits, parking-free projects under AB 2097, CEQA reform with AB 130, and small lot development under SB 684 and 1123. We're looking at this from the middle, not anti-housing, not anti-neighborhood, but asking the real question about where growth should really go. This isn't a rant, it's not a rally cry, it's a grown-up conversation about housing, neighborhoods, and finding the middle ground. So let's go. Hello, Katie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Arlene?
I'm good, and I'm reeling from all of the housing laws that have passed in the past
my gosh.
couple of months, much less 3 days ago.
The last
signed
couple
in
days.
by Newsom.
Yeah.
And so this is an episode that is going to be followed by several others regarding kind of just unpacking these and figuring out, like trying to process.
Oh, for sure.
And see where we're at. And some things are going to still be in evolution as cities and counties themselves unpack laws
and figure out how they want to implement things. Yeah, exactly.
And so not to keep it, obviously we want to keep things interesting, and this could get really dry if we do this wrong.
Right.
But there are a couple laws we want to start with. And before we do that, I just want to put things in context.
Yeah.
Right. So this is Katie and Arlene. We come at this from the aspect of architects that have worked in production housing. And what that means is we have been there from day one for master plans of communities that then turned into cities.
Mm-hmm.
This is obviously a long time coming. Like, we've been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
And then we also do infill and multifamily work.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that in existing cities. And we have to work with, obviously, neighbors and cities and planners and all kinds of things, and factors.
Aging infrastructure versus, what I was thinking of is Ventura, right? Or Moore Park. Smaller towns that 40 years ago didn't really exist.
Like, they were Irvine.
Yeah, Irvine didn't exist, right? Exactly. They were a truck stop, basically.
Absolutely.
At one point.
When I was growing up, it was farmland.
Yeah.
And look at how well that was master planned, with open space that's been woven through beautiful cities, with designated commercial areas, designated multifamily areas. It's all doable if you plan it right.
Yeah.
And their infrastructure, I'm sure, when it was planned, was state of the art as well.
Right. But they were looking at it from a growth mindset. They knew that, Irvine knew it was going to get bigger and bigger and bigger over time.
Company did great. Yeah. So then we come into today's world where, there's this debate of housing and the fact that we have a shortage of housing. Some people say it's just overpopulation. And where is this housing going to be? Whether it's in existing cities versus do we build new communities further out? So we come at it from a centrist point of view.
Right.
Because we see it from both angles, because we've done the development from both angles.
Yeah, and then we see the reality is that there's always more than one cause, right? It's never just like, the evil developer is the problem, or, the environmentalists are the ones, wrapping their arms around the tree and holding up construction, right? It's always some of both. We need, we want to care for the environment. We want to be sustainable, but we also need housing. We need affordable housing.
Exactly.
Not everyone can afford a mansion in Irvine.
Then on the other hand, we have homeowners like myself and you like we've lived in these suburban areas by choice.
Mm-hmm.
And we work on luxury homes, and we want to be able to protect our equity and our investments
Mm-hmm.
in our homes, because they're really one of the largest investments
Yeah.
we've made in our lifetimes.
Absolutely. And that's for most people, right? I mean, that's the biggest purchase you're going to make.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's, how do we unpack all of this and kind of keep the balance between these? You know, not taking either side, just trying to figure out what's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
So to begin, we want to walk through a couple of little things that we deal with all the time. Yeah. And it's just, I'm going to breeze through them really fast. Yeah. There's barriers that we've had in this state in terms of development for decades and decades. Mm-hmm. One of those is CEQA. Yep, exactly. Really quickly, what is CEQA?
Well, it was started to protect the environment and to protect stormwater and, you know, all the things that overdevelopment can be bad for.
Right.
And so it's transportation, it's privacy, there's
historic areas.
Exactly.
It's the quality of areas. It's you said it, transportation, traffic, noise.
Yep, exactly.
Right? Whatever it might be, pollution, all of that.
Exactly.
So those things were intended to be weighed, balanced, and in some cases they were declared as a negative declaration, like you're not affecting anything.
Yeah.
In some cases you're affecting it, and here's what you need to do.
Now there's a measure you need to implement.
In case you've got a big development.
Exactly. And so sometimes that's just, you need to incorporate some park space into your project, or you need to fund a park, somewhere else, right. Or the transportation thing, right?
Exactly.
We need to get some infrastructure in place to make that work for the new houses that are going to go in.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, that's one aspect.
Yeah.
I think the housing element is also part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So the housing element is a huge issue, because now we've had the state mandating the housing element in terms of this is how much housing you need to produce, and asking the cities to come up with their best shot at it.
Yeah.
And then many cities pushing back.
Right. Huntington Beach, for one, right? I'm sure most people have heard of lawsuit between Huntington Beach and the state of California.
Absolutely.
Continues ongoing, and we don't even need to comment on that specifically, but
yes.
But that's an example of the state and the local jurisdiction not quite in alignment for what what housing is needed.
And local jurisdictions, in their right, they need to have that kind of control.
Yes.
Huntington Beach, La Cañada, Glendale, all of these jurisdictions, having local control is not a bad thing.
Absolutely not.
It's actually awesome, right?
Yeah.
Because we can then control, okay, we understand what the state wants to do, but now here's how it trickles down to one of these boulevards, one of this neighborhood. How does that work? How does that feel?
Well,
how can I get commercial activated with housing and all of that stuff?
Well, and it's like, imagine someone in Sacramento, right, telling you like, oh, well, you need a corner store right here on this corner. Like, how do you know? You don't live in my neighborhood. You don't know that needs commercial right there or not.
Right.
So for sure, we need the people in that local area to be able to control their own destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So other barriers to development have been when the general plan and the affordable housing, I'm sorry, not the affordable housing, but the housing element don't jive.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, has also been
a holdup. Yeah.
A holdup, and there's a law passed on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've had other barriers, like ministerial review versus discretionary review, where things just take months and months and months. Ministerial means it's easy. I can do this over the counter pretty much, right? It's within
you work with the staff.
Yeah.
And from that perspective, it makes sense, right? The staff is the one that's trained. They're the ones who went to planning school. They are the ones who theoretically should be the most, up to date and educated on what makes sense to be able to approve something versus, no offense to city council members and other people of the community, but they don't always understand all the nuances of a zoning law or why these things are implemented. And so they might disagree with the development, but not really understand why.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, and then the discretionary review that we're describing, it could take months and months and months. I mean, while a developer or a homeowner or a group is just sitting and paying a mortgage or, loan fees, and things are just kind of exacerbating with finances and kind of killing some deals.
Exactly.
So that is always a a factor.
Yes.
All of these have been factors that developers have had to work with for decades.
Yes, they're well versed on that.
And it's only getting worse, right? It's gotten worse, especially lately with just trying to get plan approvals beyond just what I've mentioned. It's a matter of like the basics. Now I got to push things from agency to agency in terms of plan checks and getting a permit.
And again, we are environmentalists at heart. We are people who want, we appreciate the beauty that is nature, but the stormwater, for example, which we talked about on a previous episode, right? Like something simple. Now that becomes the thing that takes over the project, and you can't get it approved because you don't have, the proper stormwater plan or whatever. Yeah.
So all these are given. So now what we want to do for the next few episodes is maybe take an example parcel, which is actually a group of parcels. And we'll just use an example. It could be in Costa Mesa, it could be in Glendale. And if we take, for example, 8 lots together, right?
Regular single family lots.
And just kind of keep that in mind in the back of your mind as we go through some of these, so we can compare tangibly what happens to that from one to the other. Okay. So what are we talking about? We have SB 684, right? These are small lot ministerial subdivisions is what this one's about. And this one was
a few months ago.
These are a few months ago. So there's much more exciting ones that we're going to unpack in the next episode.
Right.
But all of this is kind of working in tandem, is the point.
Yeah.
With the agenda of the state being to really clear the way for housing developments in a way that steps on laws that they have passed
it pulls reins back and loosens other things. Exactly.
Absolutely. So they're taking away local control. Not, in my opinion, not a good thing, but it could be in some aspects. So again, it's a centrist thing. And in doing so, they're trying to accelerate permits and approvals and a lot more housing to happen more affordably.
Right.
How it happens is arguable.
Absolutely. And I think part of it is even the ones that have gotten signed in the past couple months, obviously nothing's been built yet based on 684. It's I'm sure there's stuff in the queue at a variety of jurisdictions, but it hasn't, it's only been a couple months, so it hasn't, nothing's actually come to real life yet, so we don't have the real life example to be able to know. So it's still a work in progress for a lot of jurisdictions.
So there are small and mid-sized developments that I'm happy to say have become much more easy to get approved. Again, remember we mentioned CEQA? No CEQA on these.
Yeah.
There used to be, we don't care anymore.
Yeah.
So for the SB 684 that I just mentioned, it allows ministerial approval for 10 units or less.
Right, 10 units. That is a great small little infill project. You might have...
We can sink our teeth into it.
Where I live, there's definitely... all over. I'm sure you've seen it, right? Going down Beach Boulevard, there's a random little vacant lot that it could be something, but right now it's nothing. And so, to be able to put 10 little apartments or 10, little townhomes there would be the perfect fit, right? For a small random vacant lot.
Right.
10 units... That's manageable.
Okay, so then we have AB 130, which further removes CEQA review for qualifying infill housing up to 20 acres, providing it's consistent with zoning and objective standards, right?
Yeah.
Ministerial, in this case, doesn't mean that anything goes. The city can't use, it means the city can't use subjective taste or public opinion to be a barrier in the way of approvals.
Right, exactly. So we can't just be walking around saying, oh, well, it's ugly. Yeah, that's not... a thing.
Yeah. So what would you do with our Costa Mesa 8 parcel, maybe even a 10 unit parcel? I'm sorry, the acre parcel. It was 8 parcels. Yeah, 8 parcels, 1 acre.
About an acre.
Right.
Oh yeah, instead of doing 8 parcels individually or combining them all as one, I would probably do it in thirds, right?
Exactly.
We would probably take it and divvy it up into thirds, and then we could do 10 units on each third of that 1 acre. Without going, it doesn't become, this monstrosity. We've chunked it down in such a way that it would still fit within the fabric of a single family neighborhood.
And accelerate approvals even more.
And get your approvals fast. So you're taking advantage of that, the 130 and the 684, but you're not overbuilding, but it's more than what you would have had is just 8 single family units, now you've got 30 across those 8 lots.
So what can the city, what can Glendale control in that case? Can I control the height?
I mean, yes.
Can I control the setbacks?
Yes.
Can I control how much floor area ratio, in other words, how much I can build there?
Yeah.
Based on...
Yeah, you can't do a high rise. Right. You're not going to do 10 units stacked one on top of each other.
And can I control lot coverage?
Yep.
Yeah. So there's still a lot of local control that I have, even with these barrier removed lots, right?
Exactly.
Which I'm hoping is the case when we start translating one of the 800, there's 800 housing laws that just got approved 3 days ago and signed by Newsom.
Yeah. Yeah, so
they're not all housing laws.
If we're a little dyslexic on the numbers.
Yes, they're not all housing laws, but many of them are. So we will, obviously, as we unpack them, it's the way that the local control is maintained through these is still going to be in question.
Right.
Some of them leave a lot of gray area for architects for creativity, as well as the city for mandating design standards, which is great. I'm glad to see that.
Yeah.
They're still rippling like shockwave. They're going to ripple like shockwaves, but
for sure,
it's okay.
But in that case, I mean, again, if you imagine 10 units going up next to a single family home, the city can, or the local jurisdiction can come in and say, no, you need a setback there, right? You can't just have 10 units looming over a single story house. It needs to be, there's some level of control there that still needs to be maintained. And again, any good designer, I would hope, would be sensitive to that. It doesn't mean you don't build the project. It just means be sensitive.
Right. And we can still control pockets of landscaping and lighting and light pollution and all of that good stuff.
Exactly.
So the other main thing that we always come up against, every single project, I have to say, is what? Parking.
Yeah.
Okay. So huge barrier. It's been huge. For decades and decades, it's been, how do you park that project? How do you park that development?
Exactly.
Can it park? How much is that going to cost? Is it underground parking? How many levels of subterranean parking
is it going to go? Right.
And doing all that.
Yeah, I mean, so many times we've had projects that we have not maximized the density because of the parking. So the parking, the literal footprint of the lot, you can only fit so many parking spaces on it, right? You have a drive aisle, you have the dimensions of a parking space, and you're limited by the literal geometry of the site.
Yeah.
And so if that's how many parking spaces can fit on the ground level without going subterranean, then that's it, right?
Because that's your performa.
And that a developer has decided that we're not going to go subterranean, right?
Yeah, because it doesn't pencil.
Exactly.
It's so much money to do that. Each for every single, parking spot, you have to multiply that by whatever, $20,000.
Yeah.
And that adds up.
And so in that case, then we reverse engineer it, right? Because it's in this, for this zone, it's 2.5 parking spaces per unit or whatever the number is. And then you do that math and you're like, okay, well, we're stuck with 28 units and that's what it is. And so that's it. You don't do any more.
Exactly.
Even though the technical zoning for that area, you might be able to do 40. We don't because of the parking dimensions.
So up until last week, or even 3 days ago, in this case, there were a couple of measures that developers could take to not have to do the parking.
Correct.
Obviously, one of those is a density bonus law. Great. The density bonus law has been a game changer for affordable housing. And depending on the ratio of moderate
versus low, very low, exactly,
and market rate, it has penciled beautifully, usually, and you can ask for no parking or reduced parking as a by right.
Exactly. And you get a lot more leeway, for sure. Yeah. There's a lot more leeway, and you're doing something good for the community because now you've got even if you're 80% market rate and 20% low or whatever the ratios ends up being, you're providing a certain percentage for affordable. That's fine.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then come down to when the ADU ordinance that was passed in 18.
But
came
it
by
continues to be refined and refined and refined.
It does, and it has been again in the last 3 days. Yeah. In the meantime, I haven't even read that one yet, so I'm not even going there. But I just trying to loop that into the history and the narrative of parking.
being laxed. It's like there's
exactly there is a recognition, that we can lose a few more parking stalls to put in an ADU.
Right.
We can lose a few here, a few there. We can convert a garage to an ADU. All of that stuff,
without having to provide extra
parking. Exactly.
So in the case of a garage, I'm taking away, let's say, two parking spots
and adding a nice little 400 square foot ADU.
And I do not have to provide parking for the main house or the ADU anymore under that ADU ordinance.
Exactly.
So it started there.
Exactly. A little drip.
Little drip. Then that was also allowed to happen on multifamily parcels.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you have additional parking area or like unused
area or storage or whatever,
you can now have 2 ADUs there, and you don't have to provide parking for them.
And then on and on.
And on and on. So then we have AB 2097.
Yep.
AB 2097 is now, if you are within major transit, half a mile of major transit, you do not have to have parking anymore for a multifamily development.
Yep.
That is how I'm reading this, right? So it's like, because obviously we work with this, but it's like, I gotta make sure that the fine-tuned things are still there.
No, I mean, and I'm not gonna lie, in San Francisco, maybe, in, there's places in the Bay Area for sure that I can see this working. If you put a nice big apartment building right on the light rail, all day long. I'm commuting to the city. I'm coming home. There's a mall right across the street where I can get my groceries, Trader Joe's downstairs, all day long. It works.
And San Francisco is one of those areas where I actually prefer the BART over driving.
Exactly.
Because of the traffic situation, and the BART is so convenient.
Exactly.
It's just a great walking city.
And like they've expanded, BART has expanded, the light rail's expanded in, South Bay and all around the Bay Area. So in places like that, 100%, I can see a no parking apartment building actually being profitable, right?
Yeah.
There's people who would be like, you know what? I don't want a car. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people who live in New York and other places all the time that don't have cars, and that's fine. In Glendale, I do not think so. I mean, every single project we've ever done in those 2 cities, for example, parking has been the number 1 complaint from every neighbor that came out and
rightfully
complained.
so, because they're already fighting for their parking spots.
Yeah.
So there is a major push to get biking more, which is great for a lot of areas, but not in many cities. I'm going to take the centrist approach.
Exactly.
So if I'm in a smaller little city and that's where I want to be for the rest of my life,
great,
just do all my stuff.
Yeah.
Great. But that means I have no kids. I got no
I'm
mom.
retired,
I can't take my mom shopping.
Exactly. I've got my little basket on my bike, and I can put my groceries in it, and I can go grocery shopping every other day.
It's a summer house. I'm doing it.
Beautiful. Exactly.
I'm enjoying it. That's pretty much how I would prefer, actually, to go around. Maybe the golf cart most.
Right.
But when we've got, for example, going back to AB 2097, where the parking is reduced or eliminated.
Yeah.
I'm happy to say that the gray area is that the city can still provide and still should provide ADA parking. Fire zone.
Yep.
Loading zone.
Absolutely.
All this stuff still has to figure
because if especially in that scenario, like I'm planning a party and I want to get more groceries than I normally would get. Okay, now I can Instacart it, and I still need a loading space for that guy to come and deliver me my turkey, or whatever.
Otherwise, everyone's double parked with their lights on in the middle of
the lane,
2-lane
road. So so definitely the loading zones are important, especially with everyone doing all the online shopping and food deliveries and stuff since COVID.
Yeah,
that is very important. But yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of cases, this is just going to be it's a market-driven decision. Is this a for rent project? Is it a for sale project? Who is your buyer? Who is your tenant? And is that the kind of person that is willing to spend thousands of dollars a month on rent or whatever it is and not have a parking spot? If that's in your market study and you're able to justify it, amazing.
Yeah. And developers as our heroes, they understand that.
Right.
They know that it is it is a balancing act between, most of them understand what fits in the neighborhood versus what's profitable, because everyone's got to make a living.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you're doing good by providing housing.
Exactly.
I mean, you and I both agree on this. Developers are heroes because they provide housing.
Yeah. Where else?
The most housing.
Most people do not have a custom built home. Like, that's the reality of the universe we live in.
Right.
And so whatever the percentages of Americans and Californians either live in an apartment, live in a tract home, or live in a townhome or some other type of condo. Not everyone has the luxury of their own custom home. And so we have to work with what's the most popular, right? Like who's gonna live here, who's willing to pay that money. It's just supply and demand, right? If people are willing to pay it, then great, let's do it.
Right, exactly. And so in the arsenal of weapons of a developer, and even a planner in this case, a local planner, now we have to work within design guidelines, which still exist. Even if it's like, a law that is so amazing and it removes all the barriers regarding parking, you still need to make sure that it fits in the neighborhood. You still need to make sure that it has some articulation on
it steps back when we're next to
and
a
it's not
single
boring.
story.
It's not a stupid box in the middle of like 2-story homes. I don't know. It's like
exactly. I mean, there's a time and place for the box. It's not on every single family block though. No. And so it just depends. It depends where you're at. In a little downtown area, absolutely, we can do a box. It depends. It really depends.
Yeah, and then of course, we still have to work with the infrastructure and utilities, which have been a barrier that is, we've talked about this in the past.
Yeah.
I just want to briefly say how sneaky the utilities are as a barrier.
Yeah.
And it's like, we can go on and on about this, but when you talk about, I cannot electrify the project because I need a transformer, and to get the transformer, I'm going to wait months and months. And I've
got to trench 300 yards down the block to get to the next power pole, because the power pole that's right here is already used up. And so, I mean, that's a huge cost consideration. I mean, the other thing is water. I mean, we were just witnesses to it with the fire situation, that the water pressure, literally there was not enough water in the pipes to fight the fires, right? And so you can't just assume that there's enough water to accommodate however many hundreds of extra units you want to just plop wherever you want. That infrastructure needs to be in place. And so if it's not that's one thing that the jurisdictions do. I mean, I want them to have that, right? Like, they should have a little bit of veto power of like, I'm sorry, we don't have the water pressure here to accommodate this number of units.
Exactly.
It's just not safe.
It's not sanitary.
Or sanitary.
It doesn't building code.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I'm not going to be able to flush my toilet.
I will not have hot water.
Right. Exactly.
So then with the fact that we've got to work with all of these gray zones, we've got homeowners who are scared to receive these multifamily projects in their neighborhoods, and rightfully so.
Right.
I don't disagree. And so the developer hero needs to figure out a way to appease and alleviate concerns and fears.
Yeah.
One of the ways to do that is obviously to have good town hall meetings or good
neighborhood. Yeah, exactly.
It's not meant to be. I guess it could still be deemed a barrier, but in terms of where things are by right, the understanding is, so even if you disagree, it's still, the project is still going to happen, but at least you have a developer who's listening. Because if you have a developer who's listening, then you might be able to make a few design changes so that, for example, if you have a 1-story home next to a 4-story apartment building,
maybe we push that part back a little bit.
We do, or we reduce that one portion by a story or two.
Yeah.
Or we don't put windows that are overlooking
facing that side,
someone's backyard. So there's ways to kind of
reorient things,
and make things a win-win. And also show a homeowner, look, you don't have a skyscraper coming next to you.
Right.
So it's okay. It's just, 3 stories, 4 stories. I understand it's a privacy concern now. I understand who wants that next to their home. I get it. But like, there's going to be some ways of looking at this.
Landscaping, or like you said, reorienting a window. I mean, but the reality is, in a lot of these cases, these multifamily projects are where your growing child is going to be able to live now, right?
Exactly.
So it's like, if I'm getting older and my kids are getting older, like, where are they gonna live? You know?
Yeah.
And we have a dilemma or an epidemic or whatever the word is of like all of these college-aged adult children who have nowhere to go. I mean, it's not that they don't want to move out. In some cases it is, but like in a lot of cases it's like the only place they can go is Tennessee or North Carolina. And I can speak to that, you know, my niece just moved because it's like she can't afford to live here anymore. And so it's hard. And so to be able to get some of these smaller little infill multifamily projects in your neighborhood, it's going to be how your growing kids are able to stay, and or your aging parent can come live or whatever.
And actually, like, so if you think about many of my contemporaries as we were growing up, you know, like, quote unquote, their first investment was a condo.
Right.
And back then, condos were obviously, like everything else, they were much more affordable.
So different.
But in the affordability scale, it was the first thing that you could buy if you just have a basic job. Right. And you're straight out of college. Mm-hmm. It was like the no-brainer thing. It's like, oh, it's $300,000.
I can do that. We can scrape this together.
That together. I can make it happen.
Yeah.
Today, condos, especially in some areas, were like $1 million.
Right. Exactly.
So if we can bring down the cost of a condo to be maybe $500,000-$600,000, maybe come back to
some semblance of normalcy. Yeah.
Exactly. Or less if we can do it. But depending on where it is, depending on the developer and the lot and the product type.
And all the factors.
The goal is to get people into real estate 101 again. How do you get into the door so you can build some equity and then sell that and then go to the next home?
Yep, exactly.
So just working on the American dream here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not dead yet.
No, definitely not.
Okay, so before we close out this episode, I wanted to quickly go through 3 really related laws that we've been using in conjunction with one another.
Right.
We've got SB 9.
Right, which allows a lot split.
And it has criteria, because it has to be like no more than 60-40 and all of that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's a single family zoned lot that can be split.
Exactly.
Just to be clear. And then we've got what we talked about already with the SB 684, which allows up to 10 units.
Mm-hmm. 10, if you met all that criteria, right? You could do 10 units on a parcel. Right. Yep.
And then we have SB 1123.
Right. So 1123, essentially, in my mind, this is how I'm picturing it. It's like I'm marrying those to the previous ones we just mentioned. Say you have a lot where you have a single family house on the front, and the back half of the lot is essentially empty, right? There's nothing there. So if I split that lot, and now I can do 10 units in the back, again, assuming you have access and all the things work. Like if you're on an alley, right? You could get someone in the back of that lot, no problem. I can now do 10 units on that back half. The front half remains. That house still has value.
Right.
It has a smaller backyard. Yep. You're going to play with some setbacks and make sure you give them some private open space
and fire can get to it and all of that.
And all of that good stuff. But now the vacant portion can be developed in a different way. And so it's kind of allowing us to marry these different pieces, and you can take advantage of more than one, right? And so you're not just SB 9 or you're not just 684. You can, these different bills that have been signed the point is that they can overlap. You can use bits and pieces, again, assuming you meet all the criteria for you're within half a mile of transit, you're, yada, 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 whatever you're proposing. But in theory, in that 8 unit or that 8 parcel idea we had, if you're 8 lots and it's a square block, let's say, right, in a nice little small subdivision, one of those is on a corner. Maybe there was a nice big setback there. Mm-hmm. Nothing was ever built on that corner piece,
right?
Because the house was set back so far. Again, assuming we meet all the other criteria, 1123 gives you some leeway to
Absolutely.
get a little on that spot.
And then you can also do, if this, obviously we're allowed to do ADUs and junior ADUs.
Correct.
Those are on top of these units. In other words, we can still get the house,
Mm-hmm.
add an ADU
and
and
to
a
the
junior
house.
ADU
Yeah, exactly.
to that. So there's technically 3 units there.
Yeah.
And then for the 10 units, I can still add 2 ADUs.
Mm-hmm.
Because now that's a multifamily development.
Right. So it's, again, part of it is, back to what we talked about. Do you want some parking? You need some loading. You need ADA. You're going to have to make all that work. So, it's not a guarantee, right, that you can actually get all that to really pencil.
Yep.
Again, there are height limits.
There are.
It's not going to be,
Yeah.
it's not going to be
There's
20
nuances.
foot,
There's
right?
nuances.
Yeah,
within all of
it'll
this.
be enough that you can get something to, like a 3-story building probably to fit. But,
Yep.
it depends. So, yeah.
It does. But we've come across couple of these in the last month with different developers. And the excitement there is that you can work within the existing
Infrastructure there.
infrastructure and fabric and make things still kind of feel right.
Yeah. And especially if you've got alleys, if you've got, it's a different feel than, your standard Irvine subdivision, right? So, there's definitely neighborhoods.
Yeah, it depends on where it is.
You're at. That can make it work.
The common sense approach we're taking is we're assuming, first of all, that you do have that kind of a mixed neighborhood.
Right.
Of some multifamily, some higher density.
Exactly.
Especially coastal areas.
Yeah.
It's a mix. Because you get in there what you can and it's going to be a moneymaker regardless.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but Eastside Costa Mesa, there's definitely places where I can see, some 3-story stuff totally fitting, as long as you're in the right, you find the right lot and
there's
you
precedent
make
around
it work.
it, so it's not going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So that's what I've got for today.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you got
nope, that's perfect.
Amazing. And
stay tuned for more on all these assembly
that
buildings.
Second episode is going to be like a bomb went off right now regarding some of the new laws that have just passed. Between very aggressive, I want to say the most aggressive housing law that we have ever seen has just been passed.
Yeah. And
that is SB 79. So stay
tuned.
And
I think the lesson of the day is if you can stay nimble, continue to listen to our episodes, continue to educate yourself on this. Yep. But, to our developer friends and homeowners out there who might be trying to expand their land or
just empower themselves so they're not victims.
Taken advantage of, exactly. There's definitely ways that you can expand your property yourself or potentially make friends with your neighbors and
we'll talk about those.
Do more. But there's really, if you stay nimble and stay up to date, there's really going to be some good ways we can adapt and get more housing.
Yeah, in a good way.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode. Katie and I hope you found it insightful, empowering, and maybe even a little inspiring. We're so grateful to share this space with you. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned. There's more to come as we continue architecting bold ideas, even in the face of challenges.